That's awesome. And I mean, I feel like Rainbird is one of those, like, I don't know, cornerstone companies in agriculture. And so what's kind of like the real quick history of Rainbird? Like, when did they start off? And then when did they kind of like branch off into agriculture?
Great question. And I'm glad you said quick here because I could go on and on and on for days here. And we'd probably run out of time. But the history of Rainbird's really kind of exciting, but it is based in agriculture. We got our start in California's agricultural boom back in 1933. So where I'm sitting right now in Southern California, I'm in Los Angeles County where we have our office based in Azusa. But the agricultural boom that was occurring there in citrus, you could still see the remnants of it all over San Bernardino County and Los Angeles County, which is
Mm.
kind of really cool if you poke around in these odd places and corners. But we got our start there in the citrus boom in 1933, actually in agriculture, with the commercialization of the first horizontal impact sprinkler. So, the sprinklers that go that you see all over the place and all over the world. That's really where we got our start. And then when you think about branching off, well, we started in Southern California solving problems for local growers in citrus fields to use water more efficiently with the brass impact when traditional methods were flooding. And ever since then, even in that beginning time, our innovation was brass impacts or sprinklers with slightly different angles or different nozzles that did slightly different things that made them more suitable for different applications in Southern California, and then eventually the rest of the United States and eventually the globe. We talk more about the evolution of sprinkler products later. But what happened is a lot of the people in agricultural farms kind of noticed that, hey, this is pretty effective. So it kind of caught on golf courses too, where a lot of the first other non-agricultural applications were in golf courses here in Los Angeles County back in the 1930s. And then people would golf on irrigation courses that were irrigated in golf, and they say, I want this for my home. As we look at the boom that occurred after World War II, with people coming back and the pop up of subdivisions and other homes, people wanted to have green grass for their own yards too. So you can really see the evolution of our products there, where people seeing it say, "Hey, I want this for my application," and that's really helped us. So we've taken advantage of those situations, and those situations have been fantastic for growth and for our global expansion.
Yeah, that's awesome how it started off as an agriculture product and then it found uses in golf courses and then at home. So it's really cool. You can see kind of how that technology kind of drifted from big time farms to smaller golf courses to even smaller houses. So that's so cool. And I mean, what would you say? So you said it went from flooding the citrus crops to sprinklers to now maybe things like maybe drip irrigation.
Absolutely. So we've seen ever increasing evolution of more and more efficient farming techniques, right? Going from flood irrigation to sprinklers. And now a lot of the permanent crops and the high value crops are irrigated with drip line. A lot of people look at drip line and they see just a boring blank hose on the outside. And, a lot of people can make an extrude drip line. But what's really cool is the innovation that goes into the emitter that actually
Mm.
controls the flow of water from the line to the plant, and the consistency and the accuracy of application that these emitters can deliver. These are highly engineered pieces of equipment that get extruded into these drip lines that have helped farmers grow more and more and more with even less water. So we're helping increase crop yields. We think Dripline is a fantastic product for us, and we continue to innovate in that area with things like smart spacing. Smart spacing is a technology where we skip an emitter out every now and then. So as a farmer might try to establish plants, you don't want to necessarily water the area in between where there's no roots.
Hmm.
So we enable them to do that, which will help them grow more. They can grow more acres with the same amount of water, or they can grow the same amount of acres with even less water. So that's been a really cool technology. But drip line is not perfect for every application too. As we see some of the water constraints and challenges we have in California, we see more salty wells, we see more salty water applications, and still overhead sprinklers play an important part in helping us flush or push salts down through the root zone here, where drip irrigation isn't as good at doing those kinds of things. So really the broad array of sprinkler and low volume drip line products is really helping growers in California in more globally irrigate more efficiently and get better yields with the same amount of water or less water.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. I mean, would you say that some crops work perfectly with sprinklers versus some work perfectly with drip and kind of vice versa won't really work really well?
Yeah, and this kind of gets back to something that I want to mention here. I really admire the grower. I really admire the farmer. When they're thinking about making a 30-year bet on how to plant their almonds or how to space their almonds or just what crops to grow, they've got to make hundreds, thousands, if not more decisions that they have to kind of make that decision and move on from that decision and move on to the next one. So when we think about what irrigation or what type of irrigation do we use at any particular farm, there's a lot of factors that go into that decision, right? There's the crop that you have, there's the actual geography of the location where you are, the terrain, certainly the soil. Water quality plays an important part there too. So, what we really focus on at Rainbird is making sure that we have a broad array of options that can help growers grow effectively, regardless of what their growing conditions are or the crops that they want to grow.
That's huge, yeah. And this is kind of in the science of things. I'm really kind of curious about this. What would you say? Because I know, obviously, in California and around the United States, like water issues are a huge thing. And so, what would you say, like with sprinklers and your engineered sprinkler heads, like what would you say is their efficiency? Like, how much of that water is actually hitting the crop versus, I don't know, evaporating while it's going from the sprinkler to the crop? So, what's kind of the science behind that?
Wow, we've been so you look back almost 90 years ago, we got our start shooting water with brass impacts. We've innovated over the last 90 years, and what we do now is we highly engineer deflectors to precisely control where the water lands. So as water leaves one of our sprinklers, we got this thing. I'll use a marketing slogan here: rain curtain technology. But it's more than that. It actually drives our product specifications to deliver good close-in watering, even water distribution in large droplets to get all the way out to the end of the stream, so they aren't affected by wind, and we can make sure that the water gets where it needs to go. But a good irrigation system with sprinklers, we can achieve over 80% distribution uniformity, meaning we only have about a
Mhm.
20% loss in the irrigation system, which might sound like a little bit, but we're talking about historical applications where distribution uniformity maybe was only 50% effective or lower. So we continue to push the edge here. There's certainly systems that could be precisely designed and engineered that can get you well into the 90s in distribution uniformity. But one of the neat things that we make sure we focus on here at Rainbird is just the engineering talent and the hundreds of years of experience that we have cumulatively with our engineering groups that make highly efficient nozzles that control and deflectors that control where the water goes.
That's really cool. So it seems like there's a lot more that goes into it than the common person might think. I mean, you guys are specifically engineering these to be as efficient as possible instead of just like, just putting as much water as you can out there, which is what I don't know. Some people might think they're just like, oh, they're dumping a bunch of water out there. That's it. But I mean, these are being specifically engineered to be as efficient as possible.